My name's Alex. I've been collecting for 35, 40 years. I've worked at the size store in Meadowhall for the last 11 years. And previous to that, I worked in the Sheffield store for 5 or 6 years. My parents worked in the shoe trade, and we used to go to a shop on Woodseats called Alpha Sports, and I'd always see the latest Pegasus or Max 1 or something like that and think, oh yeah, I want a pair of those. More often than not, I didn't get a pair. And then there was a shop in town that opened called Runner Care, which was had all the best stuff, and that was the first time I saw the Air 180. Since then, that's what probably been my favourite shoe. Collection now, probably I've got maybe 250 pairs, something like that, and it's kind of gone up and down over the years. 10 years ago that would have been probably 80% Air Max, but then I went through a phase of selling a load of stuff off, and it's now probably more Jordan 1, but there's still a lot of Air Max in there. Yeah, if something's getting to that age where it's not going to be wearable anymore, it'll either be stash it and box it away or get rid. But I'm currently selling my Witherspoons because they're going to be at that kind of age where I either start wearing them a lot or still get rid while they're worth something. This is probably one of my favourite pairs, although it doesn't get worn very much, from the Soul Collector magazine back in 2006. Only 140 pairs, sorry, worldwide. That's number 13, quite a nice number. Nice insoles with that, so it's not been worn very much. Nice little ID bag and the original ID slidey boxes. This is another one of my favourites, Air Max 1 Wings and Waffle. Came out in a pack with Huarache and a third shoe, I can't remember what, maybe it was just the two. Celebrating Carl Lewis's 4 gold medals, little 4 stitched in there. Been very nice to have a retro of that at some point. Great materials, lovely colourway, just easy to wear. Reebok Rapide was my very first pair at probably 10, 11 year old, and that's what made me originally get into trainers from the beginning. But yeah, and then it was Pegasus, but the Air Max 1, which most people would say that, but just the OG Air Max 1. Yeah, Air Max 1 and the Air 180 all day. The 180 would be my favourite shoe of all time, probably. I guess one of the first pairs that really got me properly into it would have been the 180 from the little shop in Sheffield called Runner Care, and then the Max 1 at the same time. But it's the 180 has been a staple in my collection since then. There was a massive gap where there was no retros, and then I think maybe 2002 or something like that, they started to come back. Even with the small bubble, they're still yeah, definitely one of my favourite shoes, along with the Air Max 1, which I do particularly like the new Big Bubble version, which I know a lot of people are not that into it, but it's yeah, I think it's a lovely shoe. This is another one from the Powerwall, which has had a retro. This is the original pair, slightly different tongue to the retro that came out, which is here. Slight differences. Yeah, that had the lemon on the tongue. Never got around to wearing those. Quite different materials. The originals are much nicer leather compared to that, but still a good shoe to have, along with the green and the pink one that when they brought 3 out for the retro, but still can't beat the original one. Yeah, my first ever pair of Air Max would have probably been that 180 from Runner Care, because I never had the Max 1 on its first release. Just a couple of mates had them, and I was just jealous of them. I was always having Pegasus and things like that, nothing with visible air then. I probably shouldn't say, but I ended up puncturing the bubble on purpose to return it to buy a pair of Max 90s. But I think the people from Runner Care are probably not around anymore. And then yeah, I had to wait until the next colourway came along, and then I got those instead. Favourite pair at the minute would probably be that Atomic Green 180, but they're from the Powerwall and series, and they're all borderline whether they're wearable anymore. I've worn a couple of the others, and 2 hours into wearing it, they're falling apart. So it's either get them resold or just stash them away for now. One of my grails, or a couple of my grails now, would be the Nom de Guerre 180, but again that would probably be unwearable, and the Dizzy Rascal, the white Dizzy Rascal Dirty Stank 180. But again, probably at that age now where they're just going to fall apart if you wear it. Again, I just love the 180 and the those two particular colourways. The nom de guerre with the brown and pink, really nice. I've actually got an ID that's kind of similar, but yeah, just the colourways, I guess. There's a few like fashion collab stuff that I've had in the past, but I don't have any more. I had the tongue-in-cheek 90, which unfortunately I let that go. Also, one of the Cores 90s as well. They were quite nice, which I wish I've still got those. Most of my collection would have been Powerwall, the Powerwall series, which I loved most of the colourways in that, and all silhouettes. I've got some Max 2003s, and then pretty much all the 180s, and maybe half of the Max 1s from that series, which at the time I was bizarrely was paying like £30–40 each for those on. There was a shop on eBay that just ended up having them for like hardly any money, and people weren't bothered about them then, and they weren't buying them, so I snapped a load up. But that was, other than that, not a great deal of like streetwear crossover stuff. Got the Cowboy Soul 180, but I guess that's a crossover with a magazine, which is a nice shoe. A lot of the other stuff ended up being sold off, paying for a holiday with it. We'd got friends who lived in Africa at the time, and we went and had a 3-week amazing holiday on the back of about 50 pairs of Air Max. Really nice colourway from 2009. Not an OG, but still very nice, clean, slightly kind of pearlescent midsole on that. Very nice. Got dubbed the Miami Dolphins, I believe, but I don't think it was, certainly not official. And back when the 180 was not a very popular shoe at all, paid the grand sum of $34.99 for those. This had been my favourite version of the Air Max 1, History of Air version. Although I'm a big fan of the Big Bubble, I think this still edges it, and probably Big Bubble second, Anniversary third. But yeah, lovely. That is obviously the classic. But had a nice insole in this that had all the different Maxes through the years. My favourite era of Nike shoes in general would be 85, 86 to 91, or that early 90s. I think I think the colourways were amazing back then. I've always been a fan of a white shoe with like pops of colour on, not so much, never been a fan of dark or black shoes. Yeah, the Span would have been one of my favourites. Pegasus, the Max 1 and Max 90. But yeah, hopefully we'll see some more over the next few years, something like that, with those kind of colourways and silhouettes. Be good. Yeah, like I said, I'm hoping over the next few years we'll see some retros or some Pegasus, maybe more Spans. I've always liked the structure, and hopefully with the retooling for the Big Bubble, we'll see more 180s over the next couple of years. One of the OG colourways that you don't see that often, but yeah, again, very, very nice. Hopefully we might get to see a retro of that in the Big Bubble form this year. I'm not sure whether this was maybe had some Olympic connection possibly, but not, I don't know, to be honest with you. This one's seen better days, but this is what they called a try-on. So you'd go to the ID studio, and to get before you chose your colourway, to get your size, you tried a pair on, just in a kind of Pantone plain grey, and then picked your materials and colourways. But I got these from, I think they were from Overkill in Berlin. For Air Max Day this year, I will probably wear one of the new Big Bubbles, something like that. Again, people have slated them and ended up in the sale, but I loved the green Powerwall colourway in the Big Bubble. I don't think, yeah, I love that. I'll probably be wearing that, or maybe one of the other OG colourway Big Bubbles.